What's up, my ninjas? How's everyone doing? Welcome to another episode of Fight Briefing. Actually, we're back for Fight Briefing. How many of you guys are excited to be back for Fight Briefing? We have been off for 2 weeks. The UFC has been off for 2 weeks, rather. And we haven't had any Fight Briefing. So we're back. We're back for Fight Briefing. How's everyone doing? What's up, Drunk? Drunk, by the way, we got your gift in the mail today. So, yeah. We also got an envelope from Vigo, Ohio. Wonder who that could be. So we'll open those up soon. But welcome back to Fight Briefing, where we will be discussing UFC on ESPN 7. God bless you. Washington, D.C. The UFC returns to Washington, D.C. for the first time since 2011, guys. This weekend is when it will be happening for the final ESPN show of 2019. Yeah. The year's ending. It's been a long few weeks since the last UFC show, as I had mentioned, meaning that despite this one lacking some name value, not really on the main card, but in other areas of the card, it is more than welcome for a return for the biggest MMA promotion out there. So let's get into it. Let's start off with who is going to be on the main card. Now, I do have to say, I looked up UFC on ESPN 7 earlier in the week, and I saw that it was 6 fights on the main card. Rob Font and Ricky Simón were supposed to be on the main card. And then I had gone to the UFC website, and I saw that it's only 5 fights. Rob Font and Ricky Simón are headlining the preliminaries. So, as you can imagine, I was a bit thrown off. I didn't make my predictions for that fight, but I don't think they're on the main card. I think this is a 5-fight main card. So, let's just go based off what the UFC is saying. The UFC, starting off the card, Cody Stamen versus Song Yadong. Aspen versus Yana Kunitskaya for the second fight. Stefan Struve versus Ben Rothwell. Your co-main is Marina Rodriguez versus Cynthia Calvillo. And then Alistair Overeem versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik is going to be the main event. So, 5 fights. Based off what the UFC is saying. I don't know. We're going to go with it. So, if you'd like, I can give you my picks for Ricky Simón fight, but I guess not necessary, right? Unless anyone else has heard anything different. But I haven't. So, we'll start off with the first fight of the night. Cody Stamen versus Song Yadong. I also saw that Song Yadong was supposed to be fighting someone else and not Cody Stamen, which is very interesting. For the Ricky Simón fight, I did choose Simón by unanimous decision, but it's not really something to really brief, especially since it's not on the main card, so it is what it is. Cody Stamen versus Song Yadong, though, is an interesting fight to me. Stamen's currently on a 1-fight winning streak. His pro MMA record is 18-2-0, and his last fight was in March of this year against Alejandro Perez. He did win by unanimous decision in that fight. Song Yadong is on a 7-fight winning streak, which is going to be extremely fascinating, especially for this opponent. He is 15-4-0 with 1 no contest, and his last fight was also against Alejandro Perez, and that was a win by right cross. Hey, Mikey, what's up? How you doing? Are you out of the hospital now? I hope so. All right. Now, when it comes to Cody Stamen is a very gritty...
You better back up or you're going to go to sleep. Man, you need to back up or you can go to sleep too.
Connor Hernandez.
Yeah, boy, IJBH, we out here. BTWJBH, you should get Apex Legends.
I have it.
It's a better version of Fortnite.
Yeah, I know.
Let's go. Love you, JBH. Love these fight briefings, but I always have to work 3 days for out anyways. Hope everyone's wonderful.
Well,
Hashtag footpolo. Flex biceps. Fist.
I hope you enjoy work, Connor. I do have Apex, but I actually don't like it. Believe it or not. I prefer Fortnite. 23-year-old full-grown woman prefers Fortnite. Now, let's talk about Cody Stamann for a minute, guys. Cody Stamann is a gritty competitor. He has largely made his name by being a hard-nosed fighter. He's very tricky to beat. He can, grind down his opponents in pretty much all areas. His most impressive performance is probably in the way in which he dealt with the tremendously athletic and dangerous opponent, Tom. How do you pronounce his name? Duquesnoy? I always pronounce it wrong, but that guy. And I think that's relevant to this fight because Yadong is closer to Tom than any of Stamann's other opponents when it comes to some sort of fighting style. Now, Stamann has never been KO'd in 20 fights, though, which does make this a tricky one for Yadong, who is a KO artist. Now, Song Yadong, we also really haven't seen all that much of his ground game. Outside of a front choke that he had, a submission over Barat, I believe his name is. He just hadn't used it. I would honestly like to see Yadong win this one, as he is the more exciting prospect going forward, but I honestly can't trust him against someone as battle-hardened as Stamann. So I think bottom line for this fight, guys, it honestly would not surprise me to see him knock Stamann out early, but I'm going to go for a little bit of a reach here and say that the Spartan is going to wear him down and kind of take the decision. I know it is a little bit of a reach, but like I said, Stamann, he's never been knocked out in 20 of his fights, so that's going to make it extremely difficult for Song Yadong. And if Song Yadong can't knock him out, and we haven't seen his ground game much, I think it's gonna be a little bit more of a challenge for Mr. Yadong. So I'm gonna go with Stamann on this one, guys, and I think I'm gonna go by decision. I'm gonna go Stamann by decision. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. All right. And H says, hello to everyone in the chat. Hi, JBH. Hi, chat says, Real Gamer. D-Rest says, Prapa 12. Gotta get that donation in there. Drunk Savage says, Roberto Hernandez. Yo, you reach, girl, says Leroy Jones. Lyrical Gaylord says, Stanky Frankie, can you sing a song while holding your dong? Ha ha, nailed it. All right, guys, let's move on to the next fight of the main card. Aspen Lad versus Yana Kunitskaya. This is how you know I haven't been back in a while. I'm messing up the names already. I'm like stuttering over them. Aspen Lad versus Yana Kunitskaya. I actually love this fight a lot. I've noticed lately, as someone who's not like the biggest fan of women's fights, I'm slowly getting into them because the UFC is getting better and better at matching up like extraordinarily good fights for the women's division. So I can't shit on this one. I like this one a lot. I love Aspen Lad, and I think Yana is a fucking animal at times. I mean, the one time that I thought was just horrific for her was, God, who did she fight? Beat the shit out of her. I think it was Shevchenko. Beat the living hell, or was it Cyborg? I have no idea. I think it was Shevchenko. Beat the living hell out of her. The poor girl. And it wasn't even stopped. Skitscat.
Hey JBH, so sorry I haven't been able to make it to the streams lately. Family issues. But I hope all is well and my-holes are the best.
Hope all is well with you, Skitscat, and wishing you the best. And happy holidays or Merry Christmas or whatever you celebrate. I've decorated for you guys. I've got the lights and baby Rudolph just for you guys. All right, guys. Aspen Lad's currently on a 1-fight winning streak. Her record is 8-1-0. Her last fight was July 13th of this year. She fought against Germaine de Randamie, and she did lose by right cross, and that is how Germaine de Randamie got the shot now for the title against Amanda Nunes. De Randamie's a fucking animal, and it honestly doesn't surprise me much that she won against Aspen Lad, albeit Lad is an extremely tough opponent for a lot of fighters. She wasn't up there. She didn't have the right fighting style for someone like de Randamie. So she did lose in the first round by right cross. Now, In Lad's defense, the problem for Kunitskaya in this fight is that Lad is also a huge 135er. She's had a lot of issues making weight in the past, and she has become accustomed to taking her opponents down and absolutely destroying them from a top position. So that is something that she's really going to use to her advantage in this fight, I believe. Lad is a somewhat stiff striker, and she can definitely be hit, but she's excellent in the clinch, and she is a real powerhouse, in my opinion, when it comes to securing a takedown, and when it comes to striking or taking down and striking from close range. So as long as Lad can keep Kunitskaya in that range, then I think she'll be okay. Now, Kunitskaya is on a 2-fight winning streak. Her pro MMA record is 12-4-0 with 1 no contest, and she last fought in March of this year against Marion Renault. Now, that was a win by unanimous decision, so it went the distance. And it was Chris Cyborg, right? It was Chris Cyborg. Now, following that fight that I had just mentioned, with a pair of wins at 135, I think her biggest strength, Kunitskaya, does appear to be her size. So that's something that, even though I think Aspen Lad is going to have a little bit more of an advantage here on, they kind of compare a little bit because they're both bigger fighters for that division. Now, Kunitskaya practically bullied Renault in their fight back in March, and she was able to beat Lena Landsberg in her own wheelhouse, and that was mostly in the clinch and a lot of grappling going on, and that was a win for her, and that was late last year. So Kunitskaya's best hope, I believe, for this fight would be to draw Lad into a brawl, because Lad is good on the ground. She's good in the clinch. She knows how to get into her opponent's wheelhouse and really work them. And I think we know Lad can be hit based off of her last fight with Durandamy and a couple fights she had before that. So I think that Kunitskaya, keeping it on the feet, keeping it in the center, and really working that striking game is going to be her biggest advantage in this fight. So bottom line, I can't see them fighting from a range for too long. And if the distance does get close, I think Lad is big and strong enough to really get a takedown here. And from there, she should be able to punish Kunitskaya from the top. So if she can do that, then judging by the way Cyborg finished her off from the top, I honestly think that there's every chance that Aspen Lad can get the KO or TKO in this fight. So I'm actually going to go Lad by finish. No unanimous decision for this women's fight. I'm going to go by finish. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. Aspen Lad or Yana Kunitskaya. This should be over lickety split, says Tim Butler. Nobody cares about this fight. Move on. Well, listen, Taylor, I move on when I want to move on, because this is Fight Briefing with JBH, not Fight Briefing with Taylor Haley. So you sit there and you shut up. I love you. All right, guys. JBH, show us your pretty pink pussy. Show me yours first. D-Rest says, bring back Thug Rose. By the way, I don't think Thug Rose is going to be coming back anytime soon. I know Moss had made mention about Thug Rose coming back at some point, but I think she's comfortable right now. And no one's really challenging her at the moment, and yeah, I think I don't see her coming back. I wouldn't fight a homosexual that's gay, says Go Pro Joe. I'd rather see JBH fight dressed. All right, guys, let's move on to the next fight of the evening. After Aspen Lad versus Yana Kunitskaya, we have Stefan Struve versus Ben Rothwell. Super chat.
Hi JBH, hi to all the holes out there, waving, waving, waving.
Hello PBR, how are you? How's everything going? Hey, how you been? How you doing? All right. Stefan Struve versus Ben Rothwell. I love watching Stefan Struve fight. I have to be perfectly honest. This guy always brings it. He always brings some sort of entertaining show. Even if the fight is slow, even if the fight starts off slow, or if the fight continues to go on slow, the guy somehow makes the fight entertaining. Maybe it's because he's the freaking skyscraper of the division. Maybe it's because of the way he carries himself. I'm not quite sure what it is about him, but he's entertaining to watch, and I'm excited to see him back in the octagon once more. Now, he is coming off of a win against Marcos Rogerio de Lima, and that was back in February of this year. And he won by a finish. It was an arm triangle choke. So the guy is doing all right. He's 29-11-0 is his record. The problem, though, is that Struve has never really had a great job despite his massive reach. He's always been susceptible to the big punch over the top, even to a severely undersized De Lima. De Lima dropped him, and that was early going. And even though he was able to kind of come back and get that win, I'm a little worried about his chin and whether or not it's good enough for this fight. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, Rothwell is on a 3-fight losing streak. 3-fight losing streak. Not doing very well at the moment. His record is 36-12-0, and his last fight was in July of this year. He lost to Andrei Arlovsky, which is a pretty tough opponent for Rothwell, given the circumstances. Now, it did go the distance, so Rothwell really hung in there. But Rothwell was never really the fastest fighter on the roster. Prior to his return this year, he was usually able to find a way to kind of land a big shot, as he was sort of picked apart against Brandon Vera and Alistair Overeem, who was also on this card, before getting inside to kind of knock them out. Junior Dos Santos did beat him up almost purely, though, by using that jab through, which could give Struve some hope, because Struve is also a fan of the jab. So I think Struve knows that. I think Rothwell is going to be prepared for that. So bottom line for the fight, overall, I don't think Rothwell has too much to offer to the heavyweight division, especially these days, but this is definitely a winnable fight for him based purely on the styles of both men. Struve, in my opinion, is kind of too plotting to pick Rothwell apart, like I had mentioned with the jabs, using his footwork and stuff like that. And I'm worried about his chin. I honestly don't think his chin can really hold up to any big shots anymore. So I'm going to go with Rothwell. Even though I love Struve, I'm going to go with Rothwell by finish, by KO TKO. I don't think Struve's chin is really going to hold up in this fight. So let me know who you guys have in the chat. Stefan Struve or Ben Rothwell. All right. Joey Faggoter says, I must back my man Struve. Shannon Stewart says, Drunk Savage sup. Vigo Stockholm's knows. Vigo, bro, we're all bros in the great scheme of the universe, bro. Tim Butler says, JBH is bringing it tonight. I respect her analysis. Thank you, Tim Butler. Let's see. A good call. JBH says, Rye the Taikojin. Justin Jr. says, Ben Rothwell, by the way, you have my parents' permission for me to get on the show. All right. Go get him, Tiger. Social Bash says, a boring decision. They're both desperate for a win just to stay in the UFC. Kainoda says, Stefan probably shouldn't be fighting. Jess has B cups. Rottweiler says, D-Rest. GoPro Joe says, if they're not Connor, then I don't know who you're talking about. Lyrical Gaylord Slayer says, bros of bros. JBH is trying to speed run the show, a.k.a. burnt out. Well, let me be quite honest with you. I thought there were 6 fights on the card. There's 5. And I always go fast, so you're going to have to get used to that, buddy. Our next fight on the card, we have Cynthia Calvillo versus Marina Rodriguez. This is the co-main event for the evening, and I don't like it. I don't like this as the co-main event. I could have thought, now I understand with the rankings and stuff, it makes sense, but since when has the UFC really followed any of the rankings as of late? Hardly ever. So it's difficult for me to be like, oh, this is a great co-main event. It's not. It's not. I don't like it. I don't like anything about this for the co-main event. This is a great fight. This is a good matchup. And I think this is going to be, I'd hope to think that we're going to see something out of it. But to be quite honest, I think it's going to go to decision. I just don't know if this is worth seeing as a co-main event, especially for the UFC to return after 2 weeks off. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But regardless, it is the co-main event, so we do have to treat it as such. Cynthia Calvillo, coming off of 2 wins. Her record is 8-1-0. She last fought against Courtney Casey back in February of this year. And that was also a unanimous decision win. Now, Calvillo is a little bit of a decision fest. But most women MMA fighters are. So, Calvillo is equally dangerous to her opponent, Rodriguez, on the ground, but doesn't always fight, to her strengths depending on her opponent. that hasn't really held her back too much, honestly, given that her only loss thus far was to Carla Esparza, the former champ. But it was notable that she could have gone for more takedowns against Casey, whose takedown defense is notoriously poor. So that's something that she can use here in a fight against Rodriguez, who is coming off of 12 wins. So we got to be a little careful here. I think Rodriguez definitely has, she has a little spice. She has a little spice in her mouth. A few tricks up her sleeve for this fight. She is undefeated, 12-0-1. So what is this? It just doesn't make sense to me. Her last fight was against Tecia Torres, unanimous decision win back in August of this year. Rodriguez is, like I said, another undefeated fighter. Her draw against Ronda Marcos is the only blot on her ledger, which ultimately, if you go back and watch that fight, is debatable. And she most recently defeated Tecia Torres, as I said, via decision. So her performance is highly impressive in all of her fights. She took advantage of her range to avoid Torres' boxing, which Calvillo can use against Rodriguez. But she avoided the boxing combinations by Tecia Torres. She worked her over with kicks and later on in the fight on the ground. So I think bottom line for this fight, this is an extremely tricky fight to pick because Cynthia Calvillo, she also has a lot of tricks up her sleeve. Now, she may not be an undefeated fighter, but the girl's still good. And I think both women are highly skilled in a lot of areas, and I think they're both going to be bringing a ton of confidence into this fight. So you'd probably say Calvillo has faced the tougher opponents, but I'm not sure that's true. Rodriguez, her record is full of questionable opposition on the regional scene, if you think about it. Torres is the best opponent Rodriguez has faced. I think I'm personally going to lean towards Rodriguez in this fight for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I think she's the rangier fighter. She has a reach of 67 inches. Calvillo has a reach of 64 inches. And with Calvillo's tendency to honestly box rather than kickbox, Rodriguez has been there. Tecia Torres gave her that. She knew how to defend herself against that. So of course, she's going to be able to, there's every chance that she can use the similar game plan to the one she used against Tecia Torres to great effect. So I'm going to go Rodriguez by unanimous decision. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. Rodriguez or Cynthia Calvillo? I hope for a quick KO because WMMA sucks. I agree with you, man. Drunk Cypher says Moss is catching up on the Kardashians right now. Socials Vast says Cynthia grinds out the win. Bagel Cock. Why is your name Bagel Cock? Says Jesse Bell Hill, you beautiful creature. I'm so high, caught up in your beauty right now. That's because you're high, because I'm not. Kainoda says Cynthia by decision. D-Rest says co-drain event. Drunk Cypher says don't really care about Rodriguez. I want the white girl to win. Yeah, listen, I agree with every one of you guys. I already said it before I briefed this fight. I don't understand why this is a co-main event. And I agree. Whoever said co-drain event. Well, who was that? D-Rest? I don't get it. Listen, the fight's going to be good because we have two highly skilled fighters. It's going to go to decision. And nobody wants their co-main event to really go to a decision. You want to see some badass shit happen in there. So that's the first thing. Second, it's a women's fight. It's still difficult to find MMA fans that are that interested in a female fight for your co-main or main event. Maybe for some other spot on the main card, but I can't get with it. I don't know what the UFC was thinking with this fight being the co-main event. I do not know what they were thinking. But whatever. It is what it is. We'll just we'll talk about something that is actually worth talking about, and that's the main event. Alistair Overeem versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Now, Moss and I were fortunate enough to meet Rozenstruik's brother outside of Madison Square Garden for the last event that we did, the Nate Diaz event, and the guy is very, very, very confident in his brother. And when we watched Rozenstruik fight that weekend, we could see why. Rozenstruik has a lot of promise. This guy is a top prospect, and I see him being put in line as a title contender very quickly. There's nothing more to say about him. Overeem is coming off of 2 wins, but the guy has a glass chin. His record's 45-17-0 with 1 no contest. And if you really think about it, how many fights does the guy need before he finally just breaks down and goes, I'm done? Now, he is 39 years old, so he does have a few more years on him if he really wants it. But he's been fighting professionally for 20 years, and this fight will be his 64th fight in his MMA career alone. Now, while his chin was never on the strong point, in recent fights, we've seen him wobbled for strikes that haven't been all that hard. So I'm extremely worried for him against a heavy striker like Rozenstruik. Rozenstruik might be the perfect, or might be perfect in his UFC career thus far. He's undefeated at 9-0. But against Albini, he did spend a majority of the first round on his back or inside the clinch, so I think Alistair Overeem's going to try and capitalize on that. Granted, Rozenstruik was able to get free eventually and get the TKO, but if Overeem can replicate that game plan, he can definitely win. It's going to take so much work from Overeem that I honestly don't think he has. Now, Overeem's a beast, and I don't want to sleep on Overeem. The guy is... I can't underestimate him. You know, he does have what it takes in a lot of fights, but I do worry about his potential in this fight alone. Now, as I said, Rozenstruik is 9-0. He's undefeated, and his last fight was against Andrei Arlovsky back in November of that, and that was the last event that we were watching. And that was a counter left hook that he won that, and he won it in the first round, guys. So for a huge guy, he's 6'2", he's 246 pounds. Rozenstruik is surprisingly quick and agile given his weight and his height, and he hits incredibly hard. The guy's got some severe power behind his punches. Unlike, say, Francis Ngannou, who I love, who clearly packs insane power into his punches, Rozenstruik is more comparable to someone like Mark Hunt, if you really think about it. He doesn't appear to be punching with that much force, but when he hits his opponents, they go down. And they go down fucking hard. Just like Arlovsky, who was knocked absolutely silly in that fight simply by a jab. A jab. The guy just has to fucking touch you and you go down. It's absolutely crazy. So I think bottom line for this fight, after being violently KO'd by Ngannou when they fought in December of 2017, Overeem has taken more of a safety-first approach. Although that kind of has worked for him in some semblance of a way, I honestly don't think that's really going to do him any good in this fight against an extreme power puncher like Rozenstruik. Overeem is fucked. He is fucked in this fight. I'm sorry, guys. Anyone who's Team Overeem, listen, more power to you. I hope you win. But he's not going to win. He's fucked. Rozenstruik's going to destroy him. And he's going to destroy him by KO TKO. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. Vigo Stockholm's Nose says... Oh, shit, I just clicked something by accident. Sorry, guys. All right. Bagel Clock, you think Moss is a closet fag, bro? He is. Steve Sparks says he a Dutch kickboxer from the motherland. Jesse, let's make a child on that couch behind you and watch that pompous ginger lose it. Listen, you disrespect my man again, I will jump through the screen and slice your fucking throat. Don't you dare disrespect the Mystic Moss. He loves that face. Steve Sparks says, Biggie Boy, quick work, MMA knowledge. What up, MMA-Holes and Lady? Jeff T says, if it was Overeem, he'd fuck that dude up with quickness, but it's not, LOL. Overeem is going to sleep and wake up in retirement. Drunk Savage says, cut that fool, JBH. Pumpkin says, Overeem is a pussy. MMA-Holes says, hashtag BagelSim. Stephen Ferlowski says, if Overeem wins, it will be ridiculously boring. Nello M says, word. Justin Jr. says, you didn't read my comment. Well, I did now. Andre Villafranca says Moss is awesome and Jesse is devastatingly sexy. Thank you. Flatter Deacon says the MMA Holes body bag and toe tag him mystic. Bagel Clock says Chris, I'll fight you for Jesse. Because apparently that's how you spell it. All right, guys. That is the picks for Overeem versus Rozenstruik UFC Fight Night in Washington, D.C. or UFC on ESPN 7. I would like to thank my sources, MMA Mania, Sportskeeda, Betting Sharks, Forbes, BetDSI, and Tapology. All of my wonderful, wonderful sources.
Wonderful.
Who have helped me with my research for these fights. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for Fuka Friday. Also, Drunk, we have your little package here. We'll probably open it tomorrow because, you'll have some more viewers there and more people can see whatever it is he got in there. We also got a card from Vigo, Ohio that will be opening tomorrow as well. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. I'm going to go play Fortnite now. Yeah. Drink some wine. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for Food Golf Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you tune in for the fights this weekend, Saturday, during the daytime and night. During the day, I believe the boxing match, Joshua versus Ortiz numero dos, starts around 3 p.m. Eastern Time, somewhere around there. So we'll be live for that, and then we'll be live for the fights that night. Don't forget, don't be an a-hole. Be an MMA hole.